Welcome to the Command Share, brought to you by Star City Games. I'm your host, Sheldon Menery, founding member of the Commander Rules Committee. In each episode, we break it into two blocks. First, in the command block, we talk about the RC's high-level decisions, our thought processes, what's currently on our minds. And then in the chair block, we lean back and talk about playing the game. The cards, the decks, the tech, and all the things that the RC likes to bring into the games that we play. Now, in this episode, we're going to change things up a bit. Whereas my normal co-host is one of the other RC members, this week it's none other than Commander Advisory Group member Olivia Gobert-Hicks. Olivia, have a seat in the command chair.
Yay! I'm sitting down. I'm here. Thank you.
So, for the folks not familiar with your work, why don't you give them a brief rundown of your Commander resume?
Oh, my Commander resume. I started playing Magic in 2014 with a 8-person two-headed giant game of Commander. So that is how I know how to play Magic. Commander is the only format I've ever played with any, real seriousness. I've dabbled in Draft and Limited for pre-releases and the like. But for me, Commander is synonymous with Magic. That's how I learned this. I had to learn that there were other formats basically and, be educated on that there was a way to play that wasn't singleton or that I could have more than one card in a deck if I was playing another format. So yeah, Commander and Magic are one and the same for me. So I just tried to ingrain myself in the community and take part in things and be active. And apparently that garnered the notice of some RC folks, and they asked me to be on the CAG last year.
Okay, so while the individual CAG members don't really have assigned roles, folks have kind of settled into areas or themes that are their own. Since you're the newest member of the CAG, where do you see that you have sort of settled into, if any place?
I think I've settled in as like the rules baby. Like since I haven't been playing as long and I've been playing, a social non-competitive format for my entire Magic career, basically, I'm the person that is going to ask about that interaction that is kind of like obvious to everybody else. It's like, I've actually never seen that in a different format. Like, let me know more about that. Having never come from an organized play background or anything of the sort, like I have a lot of casual focus as far as it goes in relation to play styles, in relation to, looking at cards, seeing what opportunities are like or whatever anything else is. So I think I have kind of the more laid back perspective and a perspective that is, again, not really flavored by any organized or competitive play.
Yeah, I think you've taken some flack online for not necessarily being a rules guru, and it's I mean that's nonsense. You don't not everybody. You don't need a guru level of rules knowledge in order to be a great advisor, and especially if you're advising about the area that you're expert in, you don't need to be an expert in some other area.
Right. I feel like the rules committee kind of has the whole rules part on block. Like you guys got that covered, old judges, people that work at the company that make the cards, like you guys pretty much have that taken care of.
Sure.
I think because of that, like it's funny to me to see it. Like I didn't realize that was a requirement. It's not listed anywhere. And the people that run this thought I was okay. So maybe I'll just defer to their judgment as far as my inclusion. You can direct your questions there. So yeah, it's just I try to come at, our discussions and our meetings with the perspective that you guys asked me for, which is like basically as far as it goes, like a less enfranchised player. Obviously, I'm very enfranchised in Commander, but as far as Magic as a whole, there's a slew of things that I do not know, have never interacted with. Like people, you guys will talk about, oh yeah, playing Standard in these, 2 formats. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Playing Mirrored and Standard means nothing to me because I never did and I never have and I probably won't, which is fine. I'm coming at the perspective of this is a social thing, this is a casual thing, and we're here to have fun and explore what we can do with all these cards and not necessarily come from the most optimized or focused on winning angle.
Right. Now, I mean, you have a relatively popular stream that plays Commander on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, and from my perspective, as a pretty regular guest on the stream, quite honestly, it's about the community, and then maybe a Commander game breaks out underneath. But it seems to me like the focus is always on the people the other people that are in the room, not just the 4 people playing the game, but the other folks that are there.
Oh yeah.
As members of this society, and it's it's just an excuse to get together with your buds, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. Like, and my first game was trying to get all 8 people in one pod, and that's why we ended up doing. Obviously having someone that was sitting right next to me, one of my best friends, explaining the rules and kind of like walking me through was actually incredibly helpful. But it was because we were all at a barbecue and we're waiting for things to finish. Of course, we started an 8-person commander game, so we went well beyond the food being ready. But it was the whole point of it was for us to hang out, and the game was a thing we could do while we were doing so, and make an experience out of it, have a story to share, have something that we can interact with outside of just the normal conversation. So yeah, that is a huge part of it to me. Like, Commander is there to check out dumb stuff you can do with cards that were never supposed to be together, and make great stories with your friends and have a positive experience from it. That's the angle I'm coming at it from. That's what I want to see.
Well, I hopefully that's the angle that we're all coming from, right? It's just, is enjoying itself. It says right there in the philosophy document that phrase resonant experience, and doing dumb stuff with your good friends is definitely a resonant experience.
And I think that part of the document, especially, and that, language is why other things can flourish within Commander. You can have different play styles that everybody at the table is enjoying. You can have CDH pods that everybody's enjoying. Sometimes they don't, sometimes 2 disparate pods don't mix together, and people have some feel bads because there wasn't clear communication ahead of time. But that's part of the nice thing, is that you can have such variety and such diversity within the format of different play styles, of what fun means from one group to the next being different. Some people have the best time when it's basically like budget Commander. Hey, it's only commons and everything has to cost less than $1. Cool. Right. Sometimes people are going the exact opposite side of the spectrum. Like, let's see what I can foil out. Let's see what broken interactions I can find. And everybody at the table is having a good time playing against those. Having that scope, that breadth, is part of what makes this format so great, and why we want to continue that moving forward.
Outstanding. All right, well, let's move then into the command block.
Hey,
it's no secret that Commander is the most popular way to ever play Magic. But
obviously,
we certainly can't rest on our laurels. We understand certainly where we are. We understand what got us here. But now let's you and I talk about where we want to go. Like, what does the format look like in the near and then in the long-term future?
Yeah. I mean, for me, again, the focus is on my perspective, the social goodness that can come from it, being able to explore with these cards, that it's not always optimized, that it's not always, linear. It's not just one style or one way of play that's the best. There is no such thing, I don't think, in this format. There's the best to any particular player. Maybe they have a play style they really like playing, an optimized thing. They love CDH, and that's what their best is. Other people might have a storytelling deck. I have that all Liliana art and flavor text that runs 26 lands. It's terrible, and that's fine. I'm having fun. The whole point of it is not for me to win with that deck.
Right.
It's to see what dumb stuff comes up and, just kind of hang out during the game. That's all fine. That can all be the best. So I think that kind of fostering that is what we want to continue doing in the future. So obviously, because of that, we need to make sure that moving forward, the RC, the CAG, I mean, not to speak for your seats or anything before you guys are out of them, but it's one of those things where that's kind of where we want to look, as far as having people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different play styles, different opinions, everything kind of come into this to keep it going on that path.
Right. Certainly the CAG was one of the first steps in opening up the conversation. Right. One of the criticisms of the RC over the years had been this sort of distant ivory tower.
Oh yeah. Well, you guys are, up until recently.
Right. Well, I mean, at least we thought about coming down from the tower.
Well, I mean, that's helpful. Yes, it's a good first step.
you got to start somewhere.
It's funny how actually, because of that, the pandemic is, while nobody's happy about not being able to interact with their people, it's actually been really great to get you guys out of your shell, because now you're not waiting until you see each other to get a game in or like talk in person. You guys can, talk half in person on a digital means.
Right.
But it's also opened you guys up to get new feedback, new perspectives, get games in with people you'd never have the chance to otherwise, because you all weren't together at a con, or you all weren't at a Magic Fest, or, like you're able to also start seeing outside of people like me that are content creators or have a presence in the community for, doing whatever work and trying to publicize themselves, and it somehow like all manages to coalesce. But I think it's good that you guys are being able to now start playing with a wider breadth of players and interacting with a wider breadth of players that otherwise may not have been accessible for any number of reasons.
Yeah, I think that there were a couple of things that were sort of theoretically in the works, like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and it was in the future we want to do this. We want to fix the website, or increase our outreach.
The fact that you guys aren't on GeoCities anymore is just like, we're clearly in a new century. It is a new time. You guys can post updates and maybe it only crashes for 5 minutes instead of the day. I mean, it's brave new world we're in, Sheldon.
But the certainly the pandemic hastened us to maybe have the opportunity more to do those things. Like, you know what? We said that we wanted to do these things. It's time to get off our butts and actually do them. And and again, the CAG was the first step there, and that was certainly pre-pandemic. But the fact that we just can't, you can't go to the LGS anymore safely.
Yeah.
And we still want to connect with people, and I think our 21st century tools have given us the opportunity to really connect with people. There's certainly, I played on one of the CDH Brazil streams a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And
nice.
how many times am I going to get to play with a group of Brazilians in my life?
Yeah, hardly if ever, unless you choose to go to Sao Paulo, which is a whole, experience in and of itself. The fact that there's only one GP in all of Brazil.
Right.
And all of South America, I think. But yeah, those are people you never would have had the opportunity to play with. And obviously, the, Latin and Southern America are not areas that are well represented, certainly on the CAG or anywhere else, because it's just, there's an opportunity cost there that we haven't been able to work around, I guess, I would think.
Well, it begs the question that about sort of preparing for the future is, how do we open the future into the vision that we want it to be? Because certainly the CAG has people on it who are heavily invested in the community and have heavily self-identified as being invested in the community. There is a big swath of people who love the format, who play the format, but aren't content creators or aren't organized play people, and we want to figure out ways to find them as well.
Well, I think that maybe this aspect of the well, no, I'm not going to say that. That this has presented an opportunity, even with obviously a really kind of terrible outside cost on it.
Yeah, obviously.
Which goes without saying. Obviously, this is not anything that we want to continue, and but I think that it's put you guys in a unique position where you can actually get a lot more access to folks that would otherwise maybe not go seen by you because they can't make it to an event. They're not a content creator. They don't write somewhere for articles. They, any number of reasons. But now, if anybody's got a webcam, which again, maybe not everybody does. We're all working on that. If you can hop on Spell Table and play with a bunch of people that you've never met, that never had the chance, you're going to get some folks that will have a new perspective. You might find some folks that you're like, dang, they have really good opinions and they really care about this format. And I never would have had the chance to interact with them otherwise. So I think us being forced to kind of break out of the physical friend pods that we've
Mm-hmm.
established has actually given us an opportunity to start finding people that would be like, hey, they really have something good to contribute. And just because they don't write articles for someone doesn't mean that we need to overlook them. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of like relationships we can start fostering. It's like, you don't know them and that's okay. We're not just doing this as a popularity thing. Like, it's great that you know the opinions of people on the CAG because we're fairly accessible, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
But
You're
there are good
you're at least
opinions
very
that
free
you
with your
maybe
opinions.
right, but there are good ones that maybe you haven't heard of, and just because they
Mm-hmm.
haven't decided to write articles or make videos or something doesn't mean they don't have something to contribute to our future,
Mm-hmm.
for the format.
Well, one of the things that about the sort of webcam games is there are a bunch of Discord servers like Play EDH where
Yeah.
you can go find a game, and
Nope.
I think it behooves us to wander into those games ourselves every now and again,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and that way
I
you can find
definitely need to do that myself.
yeah, you saying that was that's kind of how we found the last member of the RC who's not on the RC anymore because he
Right.
stepped down, Devin Rule. He was just a person who contributed. He contributed to whatever the he was an MTG Salvation contributor. Not
Okay.
not writing articles. He was just like in the forums all the time talking.
Right.
And he was like this, and we had a conversation. Scott and I had a conversation or something like, hey, that Devin guy's pretty smart. We should talk to him, about about stuff in the future. Maybe get his take on a thing. And then
Yeah.
one thing just led to another, and we're like, hey, and we knew he lived in Portland at the time, and there was a pro tour in Seattle.
Right.
And the four of us were going to be there. I was like, why don't you take the ride up to the Pro Tour this weekend and hang out with us? And we knew, just you talk to the guy and he's super smart. He's obviously very passionate. And that was how we found somebody.
Right.
So I think revisiting how we found somebody again is a pretty good idea.
Now just make sure the next person you find doesn't look like you.
Incredibly okay. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I said if the RC looks like it does 5 years from now, then I haven't done my job.
Yeah, go ahead.
We need to represent the community,
Right.
and we're only representing a tiny corner of the community.
Right.
And
I mean, like
ahead.
we've talked about, the CAG's a good first step, but I think that again, like having those giant Discord servers where you can just hop in with people, or I know you guys have your own server now, but just having somewhere that's available for people to interact with you guys, to, not start contributing. That's the wrong way to put it, but to contribute in a way that's visible to you.
Yeah.
That is outside of content creation is a good thing and something that can get looked at. There's plenty of ways that you might be able to start like incorporating a few more ideas or avenues for input for the format too, that aren't necessarily appointing people to the CAG or the RC, but hey, like you guys do have a reach. There are a lot of people that probably have opinions. Like we can always start doing polling or formatting or, just like formatting. I don't know why I said that. We can always just start like, or having forums or anything like that where we can, start interacting with other, fresh faces and fresh blood. And I think especially like having those games that you can get in now is probably a good way to go about finding new people that aren't just the ones putting themselves out there or just doing the investment of content creation in any of its forms.
Yeah, I fortunately met one or two of those people at Command Fest DC, which was before Reno, like the last big Commander event. The possibility exists, but we're gonna have to move into different forums to find them. Now, there's a conversation that you and I have had previously about the sort of danger of fostering
our popularity.
Well, the danger of popularity, the danger, the line you have to walk between fostering people and grooming people.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you start grooming people, then they end up as clones, and we don't really need that.
And what good is that? Like, you brought all of us CAG members on because we'll fight you guys. I mean, we will. You guys will say stuff and we'll just explode in our chat and just be like, what is wrong with you dudes? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, there's a really fine line that you guys have to walk between finding someone and wanting to be like, hey, whatever road you're on is a good one, and we want to support you, even if it's not necessarily congruent with our beliefs or whatever, we're thinking at any given point or on any given subject. There is kind of that very tenuous border of what is, supporting them a little too far, that it looks like you're pushing these people, and that, oh, well, it's an unfair opportunity. Like, the RC loves them for whatever reason, or, where it's basically just going to kind of put them on the outskirts of it looking like they're being, favorites are being played. Comparing that to, hey, you're doing great stuff, we like it, we are telling you to continue doing it, but we don't want to like force our hand or like push you too hard or make it look like all of a sudden, well, they found someone shiny and new and this is just the person now and it's another RC sycophant or whatever. Like,
right.
Yeah, there's some considerations to be taken, like when we do find people or, find people that have that potential to bring a lot of really good stuff to the table, how we bring them in without favoriting them,
Yeah. When somebody back in my judge program days, somebody's like, well, the one of the criticisms, like before I was a level 5, was the judge program was a good old boys network and it played favorites. And after I came in as a level 5, I said, there's been this idea that the judge program plays favorites, and it does, and its favorites are the people that are great for the program, not the people that are our friends. And disagreement, I really believe in the leadership idea that you surround yourself with people who disagree with you. I don't need to be told that my ideas are good because I thought them up.
I think they are. What? I don't need reinforcement there. Yeah.
Right. I like to think that I wouldn't have come up with an idea and tried to support it if I didn't think it was good. I mean, I might have thrown some stuff on the wall to see what sticks, but that's a different thing. I need people to tell me, no, I think you might want to reconsider.
Yeah. This is trash. Take it back. Yeah. No, nobody wants it.
And the people,
but it's true. I mean, like that's how our first conversation started, was introductions, and then why the hell isn't the CAG half women?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Like Commander.
Say
what?
Say that again.
How our conversation started?
Yeah. What the question wasn't why isn't the CAG half women? The question, as I remember it, is why expletive isn't the CAG all women?
Well, no, I didn't say why isn't it all women. You're so full of it.
There was an expletive though.
Putting words in there was definitely an expletive in there, but I was trying to keep it nice so Star City doesn't get mad at me. No, it was, but there was absolutely, like, you had a unique opportunity to say, like, we want equal representation on stuff, and it's like, well, then where is it? And that's, again, only one side of it. That's just asking between men and women on the CAG. There's every other level of diversity that is, still unaddressed, and it's not for I'm not saying that you guys aren't trying or like wanting to expand, but even then that was still kind of a loaded question that I asked.
But then it circles back around to the early part of this conversation, right? It's like, okay, well, we wanted to form a CAG. Who did we turn to? Because it was a thing that was probably too long in happening in the first place. So from the time I had the idea to the time the CAG got actually formed was less than 2 months.
Okay.
Scott and Toby were here, and I was like, I'm going to float an idea. And the two of them were both, that's one of those ideas that is good, and we feel stupid for not having it sooner.
I mean, I'll take the getting there late over not getting there at all. So. Right. But yeah, there's we definitely want to expand the network of people that are, known in our in the format and in the community. Like, that is a good thing. It will always be a good thing. because sometimes, people can't go to their LGS for any number of reasons, or they have trouble, like, they, again, don't want to get into content. Like, there's just so many perspectives that we don't have that will be good for us to bring in, because there's certain things probably none of us on the CAG have had to deal with or experience or put up with that other people that we don't have, or those voices that we haven't heard have, and we need to get those taken into consideration as well. And that, of course, leans back to providing opportunities, finding ways for you guys to get in touch with people that aren't just prominent community members that, manage to pass whatever online test there is to, get noticed, basically. We've got to work on providing opportunities to get more people that don't look like us heard.
Yeah, it also brings up the point that there's a certain critical mass, right? You can't have 50 people on the CAG or 20 on the RC. It's because then the multiplicity of voices just becomes a cacophony.
Yeah, exactly.
So which is, of course, the anxiety is like, okay, how do you develop representation when maybe not every individual group can be represented at the highest level? No. So, yeah,
I don't envy y'all's task, like, genuinely. Like, there's so much to be considered, and of course, like, unfortunately, it's not something that can happen overnight.
Right.
Like, just isn't. And I think at the same time, like, if you guys were to expand the CAG, it's a matter of finding other people that, again, maybe didn't want to get into content creation, that are outside of, like, the little Twitter sphere, which is hilariously small as far as, like, players of this game go.
Right.
It's really easy to get kind of stuck in that insular community, but there are people and voices that aren't being heard just because they don't choose in participating in these two avenues. And I think it behooves us as, like, a group between the RC and the CAG to kind of find how we can remedy that and get other people on.
Yeah, we certainly have had the internal conversation already on the RC that maybe a content creator is not the next person who joins the CAG, right? If there's place to expand, and there's room, I think the critical mass of the CAG stays in single digits.
What are we at right now?
6.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We're at 6, like 8. I mean, you've been in those meetings with all 10 of us, and it can get a little sidetracky, right?
Whoa.
So,
we might want to figure out a better methodology for our meetings. However, yes, you're right. It's easy to step on toes when one person's typing faster than the other.
Right. Well, but add voice to that, and then it's just.
I didn't say anything about voice. I just said we need to figure out something else.
Interpretive dance as argument for.
We should just draw highest CMC to see who speaks next.
Oh, so you want to be a time sifter?
No, that's different. Yeah, well, maybe I do. I don't know.
So what about the technical? I mean, we're sort of talked about the leadership ideas. What about the technical aspects of the future of the format? Is stasis not the card? Is being relatively static okay there, or is there a place for sort of mechanically the format to move for the future?
I feel like we need to. I don't want to get anybody in trouble or, like, speak too out of turn here. I really feel like maybe the designers should look laterally instead of how many other keywords can we add to a card? How many more rules of text can we put on here to make this a good commander card? Like, I can't. I think it's a fair. I don't like them designing whole sets around commander, honestly. Like,
okay,
we're smart, we'll figure out how to use pretty much anything you put in front of us, like, in some weird busted degenerate way if we want to. I'm fine with, like, having, the annual sets that came out and everything. I think that's great. I worry about power creep and it kind of homogenizing the format. Like, we just end up with so many, this card is too good to not run, that things start looking the same and they do become a little more linear, and like that impetus to be creative with deck building gets kind of lost in that shuffle. So I hope that there's a little bit more lateral design momentum than there is like upward and onward. So like those new tap lands that came out in Jumpstart, the tranquil ones, I can't remember what they are. Anyway, I thought those were not the Triumphs, the one that were in Jumpstart. They're like, they enter tapped, they tap for one color, but then you can choose another one.
The one that are like Tainted Peak and
kind of. I thought those were a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's not like super OP. They still come in tapped. It's only one other color. You don't get to like pick at random whenever your turn comes up. Like you pick one and it's stuck with it. That's good. I like having that kind of versatility and seeing that sort of thing be kind of what gets brought into it. As far as like our ban list and how we look at stuff, I mean, we're an Eternal format. I feel like we should be pretty judicious on adding things to it. I think that for a lot of talking about like how much you may hate a card on the internet or something, a lot of groups probably self-police like in the day-to-day. Obviously it can be a little bit more of a problem when you're at a GP or you're at some event or at a store. You do have to have that discussion, but like I feel like a lot of groups end up self-selecting for the stuff they really don't like and the play styles they really don't enjoy. The story is I played Contamination one day and locked everybody else out of the game. I was like, okay, that was fun. I'll just take it out for playing you guys because that was that.
There's a misconception that cards get banned when somebody on the RC loses to them, and it's more likely that cards get banned.
We beat you guys with stuff all the time,
right? And none of it's gotten banned. It's actually more likely that if we've won with something, we're going to support a ban on it. I built a layable deck, and like 6 turns into the first game, I'm like, this card is miserable. I don't want to ever play this with my friends, and I'm gonna talk to the group and see what they think about it.
Yeah.
That's not the way we want to.
Yeah, I want us to keep that slight edge of crazy. Like people like Kaya Vest, who's just like, I'm pure chaos all the time. I love that. I don't ever want to see that die. We need to have the full spectrum. I am fine with people optimizing their stuff. I just don't want it to become like an impetus of the format that everything has to be just so, and you have to have a certain formula. It's like, no, you don't. That's part of what's great about this is, again, that stupid Liliana deck I have that's just cards with her in the art, or it says her name in the title of the card. It runs 26 lands. It is actively bad until the 1% of the time it's not. That's fine. It's fun. It's silly. It's there for enjoyment. Not everything has to be geared towards winning. And so I think that just being able to keep that perspective that Commander is more than just like the competitive angle. It's a fun way to get that in if you really want to see listen, some real powerful cards have been printed in the game of Magic. Let's put them all together and figure out what happens. That's fun too. There's not really a wrong way to play this format. I just want that to kind of stay intact. I want that spirit to still be there no matter what moving forward. That this is the place where it's safe to do bad things. This is the place where it's safe to do not optimal things, or what somebody might say well, you should be running this. It's like, no, I shouldn't. I felt like running this, and it's perfectly fine as it is. I want that to be a thing in this format, that it's okay to not do what is quote unquote supposed to be happening.
Right. I think there are a lot of people who sneer at the idea of the spirit of the format, but the people, the legions of people who have been attracted to the format are there specifically for that. It's because that we care about that resonant experience that we talked about earlier. We care about building the community, and that community may be just the community of the game that we're in right now, but it's still about a spirit, and it's not just about blah, I win.
I think that's the thing, is it's not, if anybody that does sneer at it, it's just there's more to Commander than winning is really what it boils down to.
Yeah,
Is that
or you win in multiple ways, and being at the
right?
table when something awesome happens is winning. To me,
Having good people that you like playing a game with is a win. I mean, that's why
right?
it's like I probably my win-loss record is probably astronomical in the loss column, but I never feel that way because I'm
Right.
having fun every time doing dumb stuff that should or should not work. Sometimes it does, and it's great. And sometimes I built decks that want to win. But that's not my primary focus. And I think it just needs to be okay that winning is not a primary focus in Commander if that's what you choose.
Yeah. So what about mechanically? Are there any of the mechanical things, life total, hand size, presence of the monarch, stuff like that, that you think need to be under review for the future, or again,
Companion.
Companions? Go ahead. Say your piece.
Why? Why do we have them? We have 100-card decks. They're 101st. We don't have outside the game. They're outside the game. Why?
Because they're cool.
They don't have to be run as companions, though.
Yeah.
Especially now, like, what's the point? Just to have a 101st card that you still have to pay 3 to put into your hand and then cast it.
Yeah, I certainly was part of
Not everything has to work in Commander, and that's okay. Just like every card should not be designed for our format. Sending that out to the universe. Not everything needs to be for Commander. That's fine. Not everything is for Standard. Not everything's for Modern. Not everything's for Draft. It's okay.
Yeah.
So we can just say, hey, Companion format, you're not really compatible with our rules.
Part of the conversation...
We gave it a chance. We tried.
And you never know that things may change regarding Companion.
That's my little hill I'll stand on right now. Is I don't understand. It's I respect that, we didn't want to ban a mechanic right out of the gate before we'd seen it, but then even Watsy was like, it's too much. So I think like we kind of like paid the dues of giving it a fair shot, and we should just, my 2 cents is we should just exit. Let Lutri can be free, have an absolutely adorable and not super amazing dual caster mage clone be your commander. Godspeed.
Well, I mean,
everything will be fine.
one of the things you said there is not everything needs to be made for commander, but I think at the same time, and this came up in a conversation that I had with Mark Rosewater today. Well, I didn't have a conversation today. As you and I are recording this, he's released the podcast episode, the Drive to Work podcast that he interviewed me on. They have to be sensitive to the fact that every set is a commander set.
See, I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree with that. Because before the format existed, that wasn't a consideration. And then the format existed and it was fine.
Fair. It's a fair point.
And just make good cards. Like I've said, listen, we're pretty smart little group of people as commander players. We can figure out all sorts of dumb stuff that was never supposed to exist together. You'll see Mirage and Visions cards in with Pharaoh's Block. Like, those 2 things were not meant to coexist as Magic was designed. We do just fine. But good cards are good cards, and we'll make them work. I don't think they need to feel like there's this giant specter of commander over everything. Design good stuff. We'll make it work. We'll make it fit. If it's too busted, that's why we have this, non-WotC rules committee looking at stuff being like, hey, actually, this is a whole lot. But that hasn't happened in the past when the format wasn't really something that was being taken into consideration. And the format was fine. That's
a super good point.
I don't think that they need. I think that it's a. I don't know anything about game design, so here's my uneducated opinion. I don't think that it's smart to consider every single thing as a commander set. I really don't. I don't see how the other formats benefit from that. And I don't see how in the long-term Commander does either, because then soon everything is just being designed for this format, and I don't think that should be the case.
So your advice to the Studio X people would be design good things, and there's an ejector seat for Commander if we need it.
Yeah.
That if something's just too busted, if something's world fire, we can just get rid of it.
Right. We can handle that. The format can handle that part. But I feel like their focus should be on just designing good stuff. They have, formats that they're in charge of that need to have be healthy, and they need to take that into consideration primarily. Like, I realized that our popularity has probably made us a pretty big revenue source, and maybe that's kind of why, even though it's a little cynical.
Hey,
it is what it is. But I think
yeah.
I think that it's actually detrimental to just look at everything as a Commander set and everything has to be designed with this format in mind. It's like, again, however many years of Magic weren't designed that way, and Commander was doing just great and got popular without that help, without that design frame, without that set of, that state of mind.
It got popular, but then it took a rocket ride into
Right.
the top after the Commander product. It was, we turned the corner in about
Well,
2013.
And I'm not saying that that's not, to be taken into consideration either, but I think at the same time, like, it also took the work out of, well, how am I supposed to sit here and figure out what works out with what? I'm not saying that they should completely abscond from designing for Commander. I don't have any problem with them still making like the Commander precons and everything. I just feel like the actual block sets, not everything needs to be Commander. Because if it was when those precons started coming out, like, again, the format was still pretty okay. Like, Edgar Markov was a mistake. Eminence wasn't the like super favorite of everybody, but it's a little busted. But I think that it was a pretty good balance. Like, we got a certain amount of new cards. There were some reprints in there too, but it was I think part of what made it explode was that someone could just go buy that deck and hang in a pod.
Right.
They didn't have to figure out, okay, well, if I have this one legendary, either proxy themselves out of their minds trying to figure out if something's going to work, or go dig and buy too many cards and realize things aren't working, be out of money, like not know how to deck build if this is the first time, their first foray into the format. So the precons make perfect sense for that. Of course it would explode after that. It became super accessible. But I think that was kind of, at least again, my opinion, I think that was the really good balance. Like, we had Commander Christmas, we got our certain influx of new decks, and those had a very specific limited amount of new cards that we could deal with and reintegrate, reassess all these things that we'd looked at in the past and see like, oh, how can we fit this in now?
Right.
Instead of it being this glut of every single thing has to be good in this format period. Like,
is the fact that Oko is legal basically only in Commander.
You can only run one of it. I mean, we know how to deal with Planeswalkers in Commander. Come on.
Yeah, is that
We've got a slew of...
That might even support your point. That might be good evidence that they can make the cards that do the thing, and we'll take them as they come or not.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like, look how ridiculously overwhelming and powerful that card was in other formats. And then it got here and it was, all right, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
How many ways does Commander have to deal with Planeswalkers? How many ways do we have to shut down counters? But these are always accessible to us. And I think that that's kind of why we can be such a good balancing force for that, and why it's like, just design whatever dumb stuff you need for standard, for modern, for whatever. Like, we got it. We have literally the entire catalog, save 42 cards available to us. We'll figure it out. We'll be okay.
Yeah, and we definitely keeping, for the future, keeping the ban list tight is important, right?
I don't disagree with that. I think I'm not like, we need to unban everything, because every time I've thought that and then someone points out something of why it shouldn't be, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's maybe a really good idea to keep that one on there. But
5 years from now, you don't expect to see the Commander ban list have 100 cards on it.
No, it shouldn't.
No, we definitely agree on that.
Okay, good. I would be like, I feel like it would take some real serious mess to get another 60 some odd cards. A real serious mess. So I hope that doesn't happen. But that's, again, part of why I don't want the design team thinking the specter of Commander looms over them at all times, because then that is when we're going to have to start getting real crazy about stuff. Like, they designed this for the format and it's making it too much. Or it's just starting to dominate, or it's it's a must run to the point of that decks are homogenized like this. We've belatedly but finally looked at certain cards that did that earlier this year. I just don't want that to start becoming the norm, because we're getting designed for to the point where everything starts getting to be too much.
It's a fair point, and it's a good point to move along on. I think that I think in summation, it's clear that the future of the format, certain things are going to look pretty much like they look now, and then certain other things, other bigger picture, perhaps even more important things, are going to look very different than they are. And it's very, very important that the leadership of the format looks more representative of the format than it currently does.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. That's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be to be done. We've certainly done enough command for now. Why don't we stretch our legs a little bit? So the folks that come on the show have been playing the format for a pretty long time. We run cards that some of the newer players might never come across, and we discuss those cards each episode in a segment called Hidden Gems. Now, you haven't been playing as long as the other co-hosts, but I'm sure you've delved into a mine or two. What's a card that you play that most folks haven't heard of?
So it's actually not one that I've played, but just got tuned into. It's a card. Let me pull it up really quick because I'm waiting on my copies of it. That's how fresh it is to me. But when I saw it, I was like, I've never heard of this. How have I not heard of this? And of course, I'm sure you'll be trolled in the comments of how has she never heard of this card? Because I just haven't gone through the voluminous 25,000 cards that Magic has to offer.
Right.
It is from... What's that? Cold Snap. It's called Into the North. It is Farseek, but it's better than Farseek because it's not excluding forest. It's a 1 and a green sorcery. Search your library for Snowland and put it into play. Tap, then shuffle your library.
Oh.
Again, silly, but since Snowlands are a little more accessible and you can get them and stuff, and if you want to ramp, this is just one more way to do it for 2, as long as you're in green. I was just kind of clued in on this one by a friend, and I'd never heard of it. I was like, wait, there's one more way to get too much mana in green? Sweet.
Let's
do it.
Well, when you said Into the North, I'm like, I don't even know what that does.
See? Yes! I mean, there's tons of cards like that. It's just easy to kind of... When you were asking me, what's a card that, nobody knows about? I was like, I'm late to the game. Everybody knows everything that I, people tell me stuff that's new, that's quite ancient to them all the time. So that's one of them. And then what was the other one? Earthquake? It's the red enchantment.
That's definitely not Earthquake.
You have heard of Earthquake or you have not?
I have heard of Earthquake, and Earthquake is a sorcery. It
is a sorcery. No, that's the wrong one then. It's Mudslide. I apologize.
Oh.
I'm sorry, it's Mudslide. I just learned about Mudslide. Creatures with flying don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, player may choose any number of tapped creatures without flying he or she controls and pay 2 for each creature chosen this way, and then they can untap them.
Good, very themey, good...
disgusting.
Good, flavorful design.
I hate it. I've had to play against it twice now. What is it in? Cold Snap, I think? No, Ice Age, excuse me.
That's a really old card.
No, I don't like it, but I just experienced it from Erin Campbell a couple weeks ago. I feel like she played it and I was like, what is this? No, I don't like it. So those are 2 that I had never heard of, ran into the wild, and was like, well, I need to know about these for the future. So
I'm also going to grab a red card for my hidden gem this week. It's Invasion Plans. It's an enchantment for 2 and a red from Stronghold, and each creature blocks whenever able, and the attacking player chooses how each creature blocks. So you have to have combat, and the attacker decides how creatures block.
That's real gross.
There's also another red enchantment called No Quarter, which combos with Invasion Plans. In No Quarter, when creatures have combat, the creature of the lower power dies as a triggered ability. Okay. So you can set up a wipe your opponent's board with Invasion Plans and No Quarter by just giving them all the unfavorable blocks. Or of course.
Thanks, I hate it.
I figured you would.
No, care for that.
All right, we've gone into the mines, dug up a couple of hidden gems. Here's hoping that inspires you to do a little spelunking of your own. And let's move into the share block. Now, as we record this show, and our time is a little limited. I think I think we covered
We
a
can
lot
be
of great
quick.
stuff in
Yeah.
the first block, but we do want to talk about cards a little bit. We've just seen the first previews from Double Masters. So far, they look very, very saucy.
Yes.
So, what's your general take on Masters sets and reprints in general?
Why are they so expensive? Is my take.
You mean like the booster boxes or the booster packs
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
Masters?
Why are they
They're
so
pretty
expensive?
pricey. It must be
Yeah.
said. If the
Yes.
argument for reprints is democratization of the format or of Magic,
Why are they in like the most expensive product?
Yeah, that's certainly my one of my arguments too. If the idea is broader appeal for Magic, yeah, I think you have to bring it down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. My opinion on master sets is cool, and also why.
They can exist in this. Those two questions or statements can exist in the same space, right?
I agree completely, and I think that that's one of the things. Like, you could have a master's product that has a premium version.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know Prof makes this argument all the time, and I completely agree with him. You can have premium levels of almost anything. That if you want those real fancy, high dollar, super blingy, fancy art, expanded borders, the whole 9 yards,
Yep.
and charge an arm and a leg, and there is a space for that to exist. The problem is when that space is the only one that exists because you're putting all the cards that people need to play, or just the regular variants, in that same price tier. Like, they could have had a Masters and a double Masters, and the double one is where you're going to get the more rares per pack,
Right.
or you're going to get the fancier art, or you're going to get the different treatments. And then the other one is where you can just get accessible reprints. They would both sell really well.
Uh-huh.
And I don't understand why the impetus is to just drain the high dollar people of every last cent they can and just hope that singles prices kind of go down for the rest of us, when that's not how Wizards makes money.
So
I don't understand.
So having a Masters and a double Masters, where the double Masters is basically the collector's booster.
Yeah,
for the
why not
Masters.
do that?
Yeah,
Your master sets would still sell great. Give me the old Cyclonic Rift art. I don't care. I just need a not $40 Cyclonic Rift.
Right.
I don't see how that like is a detriment necessarily. It is if you're trying to use Magic cards as stocks, but that's, I suppose, like any investment, a risk you take.
Right.
So yeah, I just don't understand why they can't have a much more accessible price point for a lot of these needed reprints, and at the same time go ham, make the crazy art, do the amazing things, check out the awesome foiling, the new X, Y, or Z, and put that in a premium product, and let that be kind of the deciding factor. Like, do you want the chance to pull that stuff? Get the more expensive box. You're going to pay the premium for it, fine, but not at the cost of broadening the access of things that are kind of needed and or in desperately need of a reprint, if nothing else, if not because of rarity, but because of scarcity. I don't see how that necessarily cuts into their bottom line anymore, and in fact doesn't help it, because now you have two price points for the same thing, and people that can only afford one can still buy in. So if you want to make that a little like capitalist, they've got to make money to pay their artists and their employees and everything, like that still makes more sense.
Right. Now, on a scale of college student who eats ramen every day to person with a problem who has 50 plus foil decks, where are you on chasing like the alternate art versions of stuff?
I am probably pretty firmly in the middle. Like, most of my decks, not even Brea, which is my like prized commander deck that I have dumb expensive cards in, is completely foiled out. I think that for me, there are some things I like to chase. The inventions are one. I do love a good alt art card, but I have to like the alt art. Like the new Cyclonic Rift, doesn't do it for me. If people like it, that's rad. I don't think it's bad. I'm not going out of my way for it. I'm not actively going to try and acquire one in any capacity, honestly. So because of that, I'm pretty in the middle. Like, if I have a card that I like, or that I want it to be fancier, kind of like, show off if I can, I'll go for it. But I'm not compelled to. I don't think I need the alt art of everything, but I also will absolutely spend money on cards that are a little extravagant just because I can. But yeah, well, I'd plant myself pretty firmly in the middle there. Like, I do not own a fully foiled deck.
you mentioned Brea, which is
Yeah.
one of the reprints in the set.
Who did not get a premium treatment? What the hell?
What the hell? That's a good what the hell question.
Yeah, that card's amazing.
Atraxa.
I'm biased.
Atraxa
Did get a premium. That's fine.
One of your most involved cosplays ever.
Markedly, absolutely it is. And she got a new art treatment. It's good. I don't need it. If I chance upon one for a decent price, I might pick it up. But honestly, like, I'm fine with the one as it is.
So are there any cards that we've seen? Again, we're in the third or fourth day of previews as we record this. Anything that you've seen so far that's just like really jumps out at you?
Out of the fancy options, I really like the new, the new exploration. I do kind of like the cute little doubling season with the dragon friends. I think that's pretty adorable. I like the Blightsteel Colossus. I cannot afford the new Blightsteel Colossus. I couldn't afford the old Blightsteel Colossus, so that's a thing. What else? The Academy Ruins I really liked.
Yeah,
I wasn't crazy about New Mana Crypt, personally.
Do you think that reprints? I'm going to go back to our responsibility on the RC and and your advice as a member of the CAG. Do the reprints saddle us with any burden of responsibility vis-a-vis the banned list?
How do you mean?
Like because something gets reprinted and becomes more commonly available, do you think that we should, because of that alone, reconsider a card that might be banned?
That might be banned? Was it banned because it was inaccessible and people couldn't get it, and then it just kind of became a have and have-nots thing? Because even then, that's kind of a
and the flip side of that,
slightly unusual ring to ban.
Right, but the flip side of that as well, one of the reasons that we might not ban cards is because of an overwhelming sensitivity to the secondary market. Right, we can't let the secondary market be our first thought, but we also can't ignore the fact that the secondary market exists, right?
Okay.
So, do you think that the secondary market? I guess what reprint sets or what master sets do to the secondary market have any bearing on our responsibility as far as the RC goes?
I don't really think so.
Okay. It's just a question. It's a question. It's the kind of questions that.
My understanding was that the reasoning behind the ban list was for the play experience and not to preserve value.
Well, there were certainly cards that were banned early in the days as a perceived barrier to entry to the format,
like the Moxen and stuff.
The Moxen and stuff.
Okay, so as a barrier for entry sort of thing, like that would be the consideration, I would guess, is the barrier for entry access or aspect of it. But anything outside of that, like, I don't think that's up to y'all to decide.
And it's certainly not happening in a reprint set. There's not a There's they're not going to do a reprint set that creates a new card that's 0 mana, sacrifice it for 20 mana.
Right.
And so.
Barrier to entry, I think, would be the consideration that doesn't make me uncomfortable hearing, but like other ones, as far as like preserving or not preserving value, become a little more suspect, I would think.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get.
I know you guys don't do that, but that's since that was kind of part of the open-ended question.
It's a dangerous place to be, and I make sure that we generally know our decisions on a ban list a month-ish out from when we announce them, and I don't engage in any kind of buying, selling, or trading for that last month. Like I'm sitting on a stack of foil Primeval Titans because I didn't want somebody, it's like, why are you selling your Primeval Titans?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think we're in a position where we have to be very, very careful about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
About things like that.
Well, because the second you guys do it for motivation, all integrity is lost, and then we're meaningless.
Well, certainly we heard the criticism about Paradox Engine, right? That it tanked the value of the card.
Yep.
And unfortunately, sometimes
But
when you speculate
yeah.
on things, they go the wrong way. That's why it's called
Right.
speculation.
I mean, that's the thing. If you're using these as investments, then you are assuming risk.
Right. So, anything else? And any other cards really jump out at you at this point?
I don't know. I mean, like, have we seen a ton of new ones?
No. Just I think the best of today. Well, there's a new Greater Good, so that's that's always going to make me happy.
Oh yeah, that's true. There's a new Greater Good.
As far as individual cards go, the thing or the group that I'm happiest to see are those Lorwyn filter lands: Firelit Thicket, Graven Cairns.
Yeah, that's
Mystic,
nice having those back.
Sunken Ruins, Wooden Bastion. I think the thing that I think that they can really do with reprint sets is drive down the cost of mana bases.
Absolutely, 100%. They should. Why fetch lands aren't in a thing is beyond me. I will be mad if they're in Commander Legends, not for the accessibility, but then because of the inflated success of Commander Legends just from people looking for fetches. However, another point for another day.
Right.
Yeah, that land is the most expensive part of a lot of decks is absolutely asinine. Mm-hmm. I hate it. It's stupid.
So, I think the two cards that we've seen so far that have generated the most bandless conversation one way or the other are...
Oh, inside information. Ooh.
Well, we've seen them already.
I know.
Mana Crypt and Sundering Titan. So, I've gotten the question already, because they're reprinting this, are you going to unban Sundering Titan? And nothing has changed. The play, like the term that you're going to use, the play experience of Sundering Titan hasn't changed. And somebody tweeted me the other day, was like, well, Sundering Titan is the answer to ramp. And my response was, no, it's not, because the ramp player is going to get to the Sundering Titan before you are. And they're going to take out your lands, and if they lose one forest, who cares?
See, and it was funny, I had to look the card up because it's been banned for as long as I've been playing, so I had no idea.
Right, that's right.
Didn't even know what it was.
You have never lived in a Sundering Titan.
This is not a world I've lived in. I don't think it's a world I want to live in. I know my friends that have flash decks. I'm disinterested in that card.
Right. Oh, my sweet summer child.
Listen, I have been perfectly upfront with everybody that I am the newest one as far as Magic playing goes. There is so much I still have left to learn, and obviously having not played in those competitive or higher stakes environments, there's a lot of things that I'm unaware of or interactions I don't know. I would rather come out and say that than pretend I know something and I don't. Right. I will be upfront with my ignorance on stuff like this. It's okay to not know, and it's the differences in trying to educate yourself afterwards. There it is.
There it is. All right. Well, there's clearly more to see from Double Masters in the upcoming weeks, and we'll be there to help you look at it all. I think we've been sitting in the command chair long enough, and it's time to wrap this episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to like, follow, subscribe, ring those bells. We'd hate for you to miss one of those thrilling episodes where Olivia gives more of her opinions. Before we go, you want to tell these folks where they can find you on social media?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter. I cuss a lot and tweet pictures of bread at Gobert-Hicks, which is my last name, Goberthicks. I stream paper Commander gameplay on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday on twitch.tv/Affinity Artifacts.
I'm on Twitter and Facebook by my name. That's Sheldon Menery. Please tune into my other show, Commander Community, with co-host Anthony Alonji, every Monday here on Star City Games and on YouTube. On Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern in the U.S., you can catch me, along with other members of the Rules Committee, on the Commander RC Twitch channel. You never know what special guests will show up for Game 2. That's twitch.tv, Commander RC. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a frequent regular guest on Olivia's Tuesday night stream, because it's the best chat in Magic. Thank you. Then finally on Sundays, you can find me right here on StarCityGames.com writing about the best format in Magic history. We'll see you next time on the Command Chair. As always, I'm Sheldon Menery.